President Obasanjo has already made the point on page 4 in italics when he said, I am hopeful that this contribution to the body of knowledge will serve as a value addition to the process of peace, security, and development of Nigeria. Everything else in the book is literally a detail. Now, the book has 14 chapters, and the 14 chapters are divided into 3 sections. The first section is titled, The Ghost That Lives in Us. And then the second part is the Boko Haram conundrum. And the third part is titled, I Set on Tomorrow, which for me is perhaps the most important part of the book. Because not only is it futuristic, it admits the broken dreams of Nigeria. It admits all the mistakes that have been made, but tries to point at a picture. And when you read the book, you will see that General Irabor is not talking now with military arrogance about what the military has done, but he talks about the issues, the soft issues that we need to become a more humane society. Because I think he admits also in the book that Boko Haram, and I think it's a philosophical question, but it's also an intellectual question we can debate. Namely, is Boko Haram a cause or is it an effect? Is it a reaction to the brokenness, for the broken dreams, to all the convoluted environment that has been created in Nigeria in the last 60 years? How did we dredge up this group of human beings? They didn't come from another planet. They are our children, our grandchildren, and so on and so forth. So the author goes through all of this, and then I think he opens the book by telling a story. And I think what I felt when I read the book was, I thought, before I even started reading the book, that this will be a book about strategy, about plan, about all the gara-gara, all the shooting, all the plotting, but it's a completely different book that you can read very comfortably on a chair. But the first thing that struck me was when the general said he decided to visit his troops. And thank God that General Irabor is, as you can see him, slim, athletic, obviously not a very heavy man. Because when he got to his soldiers, it was very easy for them. They lifted him up with excitement. I mean, this broke military protocol. But I think just to tell you, this is the chief of general staff. He arrives and these soldiers are so excited to see him that they lifted him up. And he said, and I quote, the soldiers seized and carried me high as if I had injected them with doses of oxytocin. I don't know what that is. That could make them pursue Boko Haram with bare hands. And then shortly after that, he encounters the soldiers. And then he looks around. And then he poses a more complicated question, because not a solution. Because he's asking himself. Again, he says, how did we get here? What has gone wrong? Who will tell the political class of the despicable conditions of our forces? What remedies exist? Will this ever end? First of all, let's not forget, we are the ones who gave them the name Boko Haram. They didn't say that they are Boko Haram. We are the ones who gave them the name. And because we gave them the name Boko Haram, we have become comfortable. It has affected our strategy. And that is why we're focusing on, they say the no-like book, that the education, Western education is, but if you go back, and I've done a little bit of research on Boko Haram for quite some time. My brother and the director of the Kukah Center, Father Barkindo, here, his PhD thesis at the prestigious School of Oriental and African Studies was on Boko Haram. They've done extensive translations of the kind of things that Boko Haram was talking about. And until you access the kind of thing Boko Haram was talking about, you are shooting at the wrong board. Because the question which the chairman raised as to how 15 years later we are unable to resolve this issue means that you cannot cast out a devil that you have not named. Boko Haram says their name is Jama'atu Ali Sunnah Leader Awati Wal Jihad. That is their name. If you can't pronounce it, too bad. Because if you call me John, I won't answer. If you call me Philip, I won't answer. Even if I commit a crime and you took me to court and you try me and you secure a conviction and you spell my name Matthew with one T, I can argue that this is not my Matthew. So we are calling them Boko Haram, but they have told you this is their name. And the English translation is that people committed to the prophet's teachings for the propagation of jihad. That's what is in their blood. So So no matter how many bullets you shoot them with, and I will come to that point, they have told you this is what they are committed to. And in fairness to all of us, including those of us who are in this room, is there any Muslim who will say is not committed to the teachings of the Holy Prophet? The challenge is what context of preaching. Now, the author talks about the irony of Boko Haram. That is in chapter 6. And he addresses a lot of issues in chapter 6 and chapter 7, which also catalog the forces that led to the destruction. The Federal Government College in Buniyadi, the kidnappings in Chibok, Dapchi, the destruction of infrastructure such as the UN building in Abuja, assassinations of people like Jafar Adam in Kano, and so on. Now, the issue of Leah Sharibu and the Chibok girls, these are what the author refers to as the scars. And in my view, as long as Leah Sharibu is unaccounted for, as long as any of the abducted children in Nigeria is unaccounted for, every child that is unaccounted for is a scar on the face of Nigeria. So the point that the author makes, and I think that one of the mistakes, when this whole thing started, I published an article, I think it was in The Guardian, and the title of my article was Bread, Not Bullets. And I was trying to make a point, to point out to the government of Nigeria that these issues require they don't require bullets. But from day one, fighting Boko Haram became a military operation. And because it was a military operation, fighting an idea, we have had problems with identifying the nature of the forces. And what is very interesting for me, I've not read military doctrine. But military doctrine is part of the propaganda machinery of the military. General Lucky is here, so I will not go too far on that regard. But you listen to the Nigerian military, they've had Operation Lafi Adole, that is well by force. Okay? How can you make Lafia by force? But we have Operation Lafi Adole, Operation Flush, Operation Restore Order, Operation Hadankai, Operation Zaman Lafia, Operation Rawankada, Operation Amli Fakad, Operation Yanchin Tafki, Operation Sharam Fege, Operation Lake Sanity, and so on and so forth. One operation fails, the late Patrick Itiwe of blessed memory. So when he came to, when the Northern Regional Government decided to bring all these Indians and Pakistanis after the Civil War, so many of them came. Some of them were hospital attendants, but they came to Nigeria as medical doctors. So Patrick Itiwe, because for Nigeria, if you see skin color, many of us, if you go to hospital now, many of my friends who have gone to London, they go to what's it called, the name of that street in London? Harley Street, Abi? How do you know? Okay, so you go to Harley Street, and then you now go to, the first time I took somebody to Harley Street. So when we got there, I looked at the name on the board, and the name was Mr. So-so and so. So I told him, I said, you travel all the way from Nigeria. Look at the man you have come to see. An ordinary, he's not even a doctor, he's Mr. I see Irabor is laughing because he knows what I'm talking about. I didn't know that with doctors, when you get to a particular point, you drop doctor and come down to Mr. But when you go there and you open the door and you see a Nigerian, first of all, there is one kind that you feel. But if you see an Indian, you feel better. If you see a white man, you feel more confident. Now, the question then is, if all this operation did not succeed, what happened? But I imagine, and I'm not going into that detail, but just saying, because we're dealing with textual evidence. If Operation Dole didn't succeed, why did we think Operation Hadankai will succeed? If it didn't succeed, why? These are questions. But once we turn Boko Haram into a military operation, it meant that you foreclose the possibility of other sources of information. And what is more, for me, if you didn't understand, if Boko Haram is fighting a jihad, you are saying Lafi Adole, Boko Haram is saying Mutu Adole. That's the reality. You are fighting, hoping to go back home. Boko Haram people are fighting a jihad, and they have been told the number of virgins that are waiting for them in paradise. So they are waiting to die. There is a collision, and For me, as I said, part of this conversation must include an intellectual, and I don't want to improve on what President Obasanjo has said and what my brother has said. There now needs to be a very serious intellectual engagement away from military hardware to begin to deal with the soft issues of life and death. Don't forget, the killing of Muhammad Yusuf, who was a friend of the governor, and the relationship broke down. The point I'm making here is that we religious leaders and the political actors must also come to terms with the fact that there are boundaries. And if these boundaries are not respected, you can pay the imam, you can pay the marabut, you can pay the bishop, you can pay whatever money you want to. Good governance is not about how much we are dispensing. Finally, the Egyptians dealt with Islamism when it reared its ugly head. The people of Algeria in 1993 dealt with Islamism when it raised its ugly head. There are so many of us, there are Boko Haram sympathizers, they are not immediately available to us. But we know that there are people with fat bank accounts who are funding them. Maybe there was a time it didn't matter. And I'm happy again, the former NSA made the point. We've come to a point in which injury, we should be at the point in which injury to one is injury to all. Right now, it's possible for, if they say, oh, they burnt a mosque in Ibadan. Oh, please, okay, Arsenal, yeah, I'm watching a football match. They said they killed 20 Muslims in Ibadan. But if they tell you they killed 20 Christians, you are a Muslim, oh, too bad. So we must work towards a point, because Islamism still poses a serious danger.